if we lengthened the wheelbase, and it made it handle a lot better, and therefore it went a lot faster. We just started running the dry lakes on a monthly basis, and the drag strip where you could go every Sunday and you could race more, and you could try more things. And every time you go out, you try something different, and you go a little faster. If you ran slower, you would come back and work harder the next Sunday to go faster. So you had a chance of working on it every night for a week to go back out Sunday and make sure it ran faster. At the dry lakes, it was only once a month deal, and you'd have to sit around for a month to find out if it was going to run faster. I guess that's why we ran the drag. We tried to make all the major meets. The Great Bend, Kansas thing was the big meet, and we wanted to go back there and make that. NHRA, that was their first sanctioned meet that I can remember. And they had the mayor out there, Great Bend, and they had a couple of queens out there, and they had a big ceremony where they run the ribbon across the starting line, and they cut it, and then this car took off down the strip.
After we had completed the 1954 safari and had lit all these fires of enthusiasm around the country, we felt that it was time to put together some kind of a gathering where the contestants from all these various areas could meet and run in competition among themselves. So we started searching for a location on which to put on this first national event. We finally boiled it down. We knew, number one, for convenience, that we wanted it to be somewhere in the center of the country. We selected Great Bend, Kansas, a small community that we found out later as we went into the event that only had 2 motels in it and not much in accommodations. But we were surprised when we announced the event that we had a little over 300 entries that came in from almost all the states, one from Canada and one from Hawaii. And there were cars of all types and descriptions. But with that type of turnout of cars and with representation from all over the country, why we had what we could truly term a national event, and went into the production of the first nationals in 1955 at Great Bend.
But the big thing was the real thrill of it. You're meeting guys from out of state, Texas and Oklahoma. You met guys from all over, and I like that because I like to matriculate with all the different guys, and they all had different vernaculars than we did. California, of course, we were the top dogs when it comes. We created the whole vernacular for hot rodding. It started right here, and these guys were trying to pick it up, so they had a totally different one. For instance, out here in California, it's hey Jack, you want to drag it out? And so back there was no such thing as drag it out. We'd hear this, y'all want to dig? And we thought that was rather strange. But we would say drag it out, and of course the southern guys would say, y'all want to dig?
The biggest thing in '55 was just to be there, to have a car that would pass tech the safety items that we had to have back in those days, which was very few back then because the drag racing was just really getting started then. They was, for that time and age, no longer than the sport of drag racing has been going on anywhere. You take Scott's Bustle Bomb, the one that had the Cadillac engine in front, the Olds in the back, was probably the most impressive car there. The Arfin's first Allison-powered dragster with an 16-cylinder engine in it was very impressive. Although I thought it was too big and bugglesome, it really wasn't nice looking, except it made a lot of noise and ran good. And just in Mickey Thompson's Streamliner, which was the first Streamliner I'd ever saw, because they hadn't even had pictures of it in Hot Rod Magazine yet, and that was only the only magazine that carried anything like that at that time.
Waiting on the Nationals in Great Bend in '55 was, I guess, for drag racing, like a real Christmas was coming. everybody across the country had ever done. I saw pictures of all the cars on the East Coast and cars from Canada, and mostly the big bad cars from California that everybody had always heard about and couldn't go see. I remember going into Great Bend, Kansas in the middle of the night, and I was so excited that I think I slept out on the hood of the car because we pulled in behind this big trailer, and it was Mickey Thompson. And he told us to get out of the way, that he had to go on in up there, and we were so awe-inspired, he went right on up to the front of the line, and we all sat there and went to sleep that night just thinking the fact that Mickey Thompson had passed us in line and we got to see him.
Great Bend, Kansas drag strip was nothing but a great big cement square sections all put together. Some bomber landing field or something from World War II. And I remember I would get out, I was a chief inspector at that time, and I remember one time there was a Buick that we had to tear down. We had a protest against a great big Texas guy that had a Buick, Roadmaster or something, and he was winning the race all the time. And in winning this race, somebody protested him. And so actually he had to take the heads off, and we had to pull the cam out and do all the stuff. These guys had to do the work on it, but we had to go check it. 99% of the time, we didn't know what the hell we were looking for because there was no specs. Nobody knew everything about everything like Farmer or the guys do right now. They have tremendous, information available to them. And so some guy whispers in my ear, he says, the guy in the Buick has Cadillac lifters in it. I said, oh yeah, okay. And I just let it go at that. So when the guy tears it all down and he's taking it out, I pick up a lifter and I say, that's a Cadillac lifter. The guy looks at me. He says, how in the hell do you know that? I said, God, look at it. Anybody can tell that's a Cadillac lifter. And I just put it down. I said, you're out. And I just walked away.
Yeah, that's truly where it all started as far as the national observance of it, drag racing with Great Bend. And it was just an auspicious beginning, and it was all for the cars and for the mechanics and the pit crews, etc., etc.
I think the outstanding features of Great Bend to me were that we had truly been able to unite contestants in what they referred to as the Mecca from all parts of the country to run together, because more than just being in competition, they valued their association and making new acquaintances with one another. I think what we did was we probably established the fraternity that NHRA became more strongly there at that event than any other achievement that it produced.
In 1956, we went to Kansas City. We had a few more bleachers at that time, discovered that we could sell some tickets. The prices were quite low. The cars still were real wild, all different types of machinery. In 57, we went to Oklahoma City. In 1957 and 58, those 2 years at Oklahoma City was the first time that we saw huge crowds. I mean, those crowds would do justice to any drag race that we have today. They showed up in droves, and we discovered, hey, we got something here. And in 1957, 58 at Oklahoma City, it was wall-to-wall spectators. We had bleachers all the way down the quarter mile on one side, and it was still standing room only. So it was just super in those years. And then, of course, we moved on to Detroit Dragway in 1959 and 1960. And one of the purposes there, I believe Wally Parks thought that we needed to attract interest from the manufacturers, especially from the automotive industry. So in 59 and 60, we were at Detroit Dragway.
In 1959, I was asked to work the Nationals, and I worked there. And then in 1960, they asked me to come back again, and I went back in 1960 and Detroit again. And after that, I went out to California and helped write the rule book. I didn't write it, but I helped formulate the rules based on what the people throughout the country had suggested. And after the rules meeting was over, I was asked to come to work for NHRA. And I would say in, 4 years after I showed up in 59, the fields doubled. There was twice as many cars there, and they were twice as pretty, and they ran a lot better.
After 1959 Detroit, we went back for a second year and ran there again in 1960. Again, had a very successful race. But while we were there, we had a visitor from Indianapolis, Mr. Tom Binford, who at that time was the president of the United States Auto Club, but he also was one of the developers of a proposed new racing complex at Indianapolis. So he came to Detroit and made a proposal to me that outlined the plans for the track they intended to build in Indianapolis, and simply asked if we would be interested in moving our nationals to that location. We then came and visited the facility at Indianapolis Raceway Park and took part in the initial planning, and ultimately in 1961 did move the event and produced it at Indianapolis Raceway Park for the first time. We found several attractions to Indianapolis as a new site for the Nationals. One of them was the fact that it offered permanence. It looked as if the facility was going to be one that would allow us to continue the event there forever. It emphasized the importance of establishing our Labor Day weekend as the traditional date, so that people could rely and make plans, make vacation plans to continue participating or attending the race. And in addition to that, it gave us the opportunity to move into a city that was already auto racing oriented. After the Nationals had established themselves, and by 1961, we felt that there was a need to expand and produce something of major status in the West Coast area, where we had the majority of race cars in action. So we moved to Los Angeles County Fairgrounds in Pomona and produced our Winter Nationals, which then gave us 2 major races a year. Then, 5 years later, we had a similar need because the sport was growing and there were other areas of the country that needed more than just their divisional and regional races. So we introduced the Spring Nationals. And the Spring Nationals started out in Tennessee and went to New Jersey and then to Texas and finally worked its way into Ohio. But that was the number 3. Then we decided that we needed a runoff as a sort of a culmination to all 3 in this tournament, so we established our World Finals. And that kicked off again in 1965, which gave us a points competition for the overall competitors and gave us what we called our season of Big 4 events, which at that time we thought was the end of the line. We thought we would produce 4 major events a year and go on from there, but it hadn't turned out that way.
Over all the years of everything I've been involved with, the association that I have had with all the people at NHRA, the little guys, the big guys, the racers, everybody, has been an experience that I am grateful that I got to go through. And it's a fantastic organization, and one of the most exciting things to me about the whole thing, in the years of winning and all the glory and all that stuff, the exciting thing is to me is to see the progress that the sport has made, and I just thank God that I got to be a part of the thing.
If there was a dream, why the dream was to try to convey and spread interest and enthusiasm in cars, because the real glue, the real catalyst that this was all about was in giving special attention and consideration to cars. And all of us were nuts and bolts people who started the sport, and in its primary years, most of the people who came and attended events were ones who had a special interest in cars and what they could do to them to improve them. And I guess the dream was to gain universal acceptance and appreciation for the special qualities and talents of people who are able to take parts and pieces of cars or old hulks of cars and convert them into the kind of equipment is running on the drag strips.